Okay, everyone, good afternoon. This is Ashley Fobb. I'm Director of Communications and Development for the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge, and we welcome you to Create You, a professional development webinar series for artists and arts organizations. This is sponsored by IT Inspired, so we thank them for their support. To learn more about the Arts Council, we have a great artist membership program that includes our community artist roster. You can sign on to be a member and be on that, as well as free admission to the Art Summit coming up in July and so much more. So visit artsvr.org and support. And also mark your calendars, Arts Council's annual meeting will take place May 22nd on 6th Street in front of Cocha. And now let's begin. We are so excited to have Madeline Ellis from MIMOSA Handcrafted. Madeline works alongside her husband with a team of 5 as full-time jewelers. They create jewelry start to finish in their South Louisiana home studio using the ancient art of lost wax casting. Madeline and her husband graduated in landscape architecture from LSU, and she began MIMOSA when she took her lifelong passion for making and pursued it after her day job. We're so excited to have you, Madeline, so take it away. We'll also have a question and answer session after this, so if you can send me questions via the chat, you look down at the bottom of the screen, there's a chat option. You can click that, and all the questions will come straight to me. So thank you so much for being here, and go on, Madeline.
Well, hi, thank you so much for having me. Like she said, I had started doing the arts market about I think in 2008, so it's been a little over 10 years. And I think I started my website about that same time. So I've been doing all the photography for my website, for social media, all of that, all of these years, and nothing fancy. Just most of this time it's been with my phone. I think I started out, it was before iPhones were a thing. I started out with just like a little Canon digital camera. But anyway, for the purposes of this, it's going to mostly be, I'll be talking about iPhones or any kind of smartphone. So we'll just get started. Like I said, we'll be talking about the smartphone. I don't even really know what one I have. It's a newer one, but I think most of them work, and they all have really great digital photography for what we're trying to do here. What I would say is look into some of the different apps. I pretty much use my phone for everything. I don't even a lot of times upload it to the computer to work in Photoshop or anything like that to edit it. If I'm using social media, I'll just use the Instagram photo editing app on Instagram. There's also an app called Afterlight. That's this little logo right here. I think it's only like $3, and that's a really great one. There's some really good presets that you can use with that. And then Lightroom is a Adobe Photoshop app. It's this LR. So if you don't have Photoshop, you can get that app and do pretty much all of the basic things that you would do in Photoshop, like lightening up a picture or anything like that. But we'll get into a little bit more of that later. But you can get some of those apps, and a lot of those apps come with presets. Let's see, like Lightroom has these presets, and you can go look on Etsy, and people sell, like, do you see, I don't know, I'm sure y'all can see right now, these different preset packages. So say you like the sea salt look, or a bright white look, or vibrant color, vibrant pictures. You can go download these presets they'll help you, walk you through step by step to set up in the app, so that all of your pictures have this overall same feel or vibe. And you're not having to go in and manually edit every single picture to have that look. You can use these presets, and that makes life a lot easier. I just found out about them, and I'm just now getting into this, but I think it could be really helpful if you're just getting started, especially to kind of have that cohesive look to everything all of your pictures. So apps are really important and very helpful and very inexpensive. Graphics and layout. Well, let's see. This, just for example, like with some of the apps, you can just brighten some of your pictures. The top picture is one that I just took on my phone, in the room or whatever. And then after that, I kind of went in and edited it a little bit just to brighten it up so you can see a little bit better. So some of the apps can do so much more than that, but that's a simple explanation, for example. And then one of the other things is graphics and layout. One of my favorite apps for that is Canva. So these are just pictures that I took with my phone. Like one was before a pop-up, downtown, and one was for a giveaway that we were doing. But I wanted, sometimes you want, like, especially for social media, but even if it's for like a newsletter or for something for your website, you want to be able to put words over it. And Canva is a really um, a great app that you can actually use on your desktop or on your phone. And you can use it for social media, for making posters. If you just go to canva.com, you start a profile. You can do Facebook covers, flyers, posts that have, if you're doing a sale for Mother's Day and you want to write something with it, they have preset posts. So all the layout and all the graphics are already in it. You just plug your image into it, something like this for Instagram. But you can scroll through, you can do business cards, email headers, everything. So highly recommend Canva for that. We use it all the time. You can see some of our previous designs that we've used before for different, like we were hiring or for Christmas. But that just gives you some idea of some things that we've used before. I would definitely look into Canva. And then along with that, is having a tripod or something, as far, in addition to your phone and some of these apps. If you don't have a steady hand, or if you're taking a picture of something that you kind of like, if it's on the wall and you want to be able to step back and come back to it and fix and adjust, having a tripod that your camera can sit on that you can go back and look through can be really helpful. I don't personally use a tripod, but when I started preparing for this, I got myself one. This is just one that you can use with your iPhone, but if you're using a camera, you can get a fancy tripod. But they have these ones that you can just put your phone in, and you can kind of use for close-up pictures, but it helps keep your hand steady. So maybe this will help me with my pictures in the future. Let's see, then the next thing is lighting. For me, natural light is the way to go. I've bought so many different lighting boxes over the last few years. We've probably had like 5 or 6 that we bought online, and there may be some really great ones out there that we just haven't found yet. So I would love to hear more from y'all on that, actually. But for the last 10 years, I've just been using natural light for the most part. And you want like indirect natural light. You don't want it to be like the sun shining directly on your thing, on your product, but any kind of like indirect natural light that's kind of diffused really is perfect. So pay attention to your house, like or your studio, kind of become familiar with what rooms and where the light is the best, so that you're not kind of like looking every single day. You're like, oh, I know in my sunroom and in my living room, those are where I take my pictures. So you can kind of mentally prepare for like, when you're going to set up or where you're going to set up, knowing where the light is the best in your house. And cloudy days are really good days for taking pictures too. It's diffused. It's not that bright direct light. And then the background. I use just like a big poster board. This one has something printed on the other side, but you could just go to the dollar store or Walmart or whatever and get a piece of post board for this. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but something just clean and white, and preferably non-reflective, so you're not having to deal with a lot of reflections or shadows or anything. A couple of things with the white background. I know a lot of people, your pieces might look better in a moody, it might tell a better story to have it like in a darker background or something like that, and that's great for your website. But to have the option of having that white background makes it easier for bloggers to add your products to their gift guide roundup. So for example, this is a gift guide roundup that we did at Christmas, and it was a lot easier to grab products that were already on a white background to add to it. And because time is so short and valuable, you want to make it easy for magazine companies, bloggers, Instagram influencers, whoever, to be able to grab your product images and add it to whatever they're doing. So say somebody is like doing a story on apple cider vinegar for Christmas, for a post or something, or for like a magazine article. If they're looking for an image of something, a product to use, they're going to search and find all these images with like cups in the background and all this stuff in the kitchen. But if they come across Andy Lynn's fire cider vinegar and it's on this clean white background, it's a great picture, it's real crisp, it's real simple to read all of her logo and everything, that's what they're going to go with. And if a magazine emails you and says, hey, we're doing a story, a roundup on top 5 gifts under this amount or something like that. If you have an image like a PNG file on a white background that you can send them quickly, it's a lot more likely that they'll use your product, because it's just they're usually in a really tight time frame already. That makes it easier for them. And then other backgrounds, as far as like giving that kind of cohesive look to your website, you want to pick just a handful of backgrounds that you stick with, so that like it's a cohesive look to everything when people are scrolling through. For us, we tend to stick with marble, white, the white subway tile, wood floors. If it's something really big, I can lay it on a wood floor or lean it up against the wall. If it's something smaller, I use all of my product images are taken on this cake stand from Sur La Table. If you go to our website, you see all these, well, I've got a coupon there. You see all of these pictures are taken on this, this cake stand. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy or expensive. You know, you can just get creative with what you have. But it gives it that cohesive look that you're looking for, so that your customers not like their eyes not jumping all over the place to all of these different things, you know, to look at. They're looking, the focus is still on your product. So the focus is very much still just the jewelry. There is a slight difference, you know, between the white and the marble, but it's all kind of, the focus is still on the jewelry. So I would just recommend going through your house or going through your space, or they also do sell these like boards that you can buy, or you can go to like Home Depot and get like a section of these subway tiles or whatever. They have that vinyl sticker that you can buy that has these different textures. I'll have to look that up later and send it to you in a link. But you don't have to have a tile wall, I guess is what I'm saying. You can buy things that look like it and use that. The next thing is just to show you some examples of, like, this is a flat lay that I did on the floor with some of our pieces for Father's Day, and this is the piece on that Sur La Table cake stand that I was showing you. This is up against an old car that my husband has. Just look around for colors that really speak to you, or that are in the overall theme for your brand, that you can consistently take pictures in front of. Another one is this rug that we have, and this throw that we have on the back of the couch. Things that are easily accessible, like even if it's something that you keep all of these things in one box, so that when you're going to do a photo shoot, you go grab that box and you've got your rugs, you've got your throw, you've got your poster board, maybe a piece of marble, depending on how big your artwork is, but something that you can just grab and say, okay, for the next 3 hours, I'm just going to do a little photo shoot of all my things that I have right now. And you've got everything right there with you. And then this is just an example I wanted to show you, like that's my desk at work with my poster board, and we were doing a little flat lay of some fun, this little bag that we were doing for Easter. So zoomed in, it looks great. It looks like this clean, you know, image. Let me see if I can show you in Photoshop. We took it over to Photoshop. When I first brought it in, it was kind of dark. It had some wrinkles and things, some flecks around that I need to clean up, and I can just show you at the end. It ended up looking, we brightened it up. But that picture was just taken on my desk with all this stuff around it, like not in a fancy studio, nothing, you know, not expensive. We just on a dollar poster board. So don't feel like, oh, I can't do it. I don't have like a photo box. I don't have the right light. These lamps weren't even on. It was just the natural light from the window that I was using. And so you don't have to wait till everything is perfect, or you have this expensive photographer. You can literally just do it in your studio with what you have. And this, like, again, is my cake stand. It's small and round, and sometimes I still want that same look for things that are a little bit bigger. So I just went ahead and took it, and then Photoshop, like, I don't know if y'all are familiar with the stamp tool, but it's really easy to use. And I just stamp tool those corners so that I have that clean, solid image that I was looking for. Next up is props. It doesn't, like I said, the theme is, it doesn't need to be fancy, I guess, here, but it doesn't need to be fancy. You most likely have what you need already. plants, you know, greenery from around your house. Go to Trader Joe's and buy a few flowers. If you know you're going to have a photo shoot coming up and you have a thing for peonies or for tulips or something like that, be sure that you have them and kind of incorporate them in your, and then that way when people are looking through your website, you have your image on your white background for most of your pictures, and then your alternative pictures are things with props in them that where they can imagine this thing being used in their life, or in their house. So, and then another part of it is like, what some tools of the trade, what did you use to make this piece? I carve my pieces out of wax. So I have these tools, if y'all can see them, they're wax carving tools, and like my ruler. Sometimes, like, especially for social media or for some of those alternative pictures, I'll get like a piece of wax that I've been carving, put the tools next to it, and then the final piece next to that. And then then it starts to tell a story of how this piece came to be. It's not all written out, but then they can, it's a reminder that this thing is handcrafted. So I think people appreciate that. And then go to websites that you like. Think of places that you shop a lot. For me, it's like Bando is a website that I really love. I love their style. It's really fun. Their vignettes are really fun, but start to make a list of the things that you like about those websites. Another one is like very, I guess, different, but Magnolia, a lot of people obviously like that one, but and for me, it's a lot of everything's clean, it's easy to see, it's beautiful to me. So like, make a list of the things you like about it and what works and what could work for you. And the next time that you do a photo shoot, try to see how you can incorporate those things into your photo shoot. And then keep the things that work, and then don't keep the things that don't work, obviously. But it really helps to start looking at other websites. So if it's Lands' End, or if it's Walmart or Target or wherever it is, some of your other favorite artists, look and see what they're doing and make lists of the things that you think could work for you, and what stands out as what you like. Details really do matter here, because it's kind of like a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's the first, like the initial meeting. It's the first thing that people get to see. So if you have a beautiful product, but it's on a wrinkly tablecloth, they're gonna see the tablecloth before they see the product, or they're gonna kind of have this intuitive feeling like, oh, they didn't take care of the background, or they didn't notice all the details. So maybe the quality of it isn't great. And that's just sort of one of those like subconscious things, but it's something that really does matter. So you don't want that stuff to take away from the focal point of your art. So if it's up against a wall and there's a dirty rag on the floor, like move the dirty rag around, away, you know, that kind of thing. But if you are going for like a rustic vibe, I do want to say, just go for it full force. You know, you don't want it to feel like, is it supposed to be dirty or is it supposed to be clean? It should, you know, if it's at a farmhouse or something and there's supposed to be mud everywhere because that's part of the aesthetic of what you're going for to tell the story, about your piece, go for it. And don't make it like a question of, you know, if it's supposed to be that way or not. Pay attention to shadows and reflections that can make or break a picture, especially if you have products that are really reflective. I have jewelry, so I have to pay attention to that for every single picture. If I have like a beautiful piece of jewelry, but you can see my face or my camera in the piece of jewelry, then it's worthless, because everybody's only going to see my camera when they look at the piece of jewelry. So you have to really pay attention to that kind of thing. Get at weird angles to be sure that you're not reflective. Just a regular piece of printer paper can really hide a lot of things. Like if you have something that's bright pink that keeps reflecting in your thing, you can hold a piece of paper up against it so that the white, you know, whatever the thing is in the distance won't reflect into it. Be mindful of what's in the background. That's like one of those things where we're all creative, you know, we're artists. You can get so focused on the art itself and making sure the art looks good that you kind of forget what's in the background. If there's like a box of tissues or there's a thing of baby wipes or something, just kind of step back. Don't forget to step back and make sure that you look at what's in the background. Wipe the camera lens. I highlighted that one because it's one of those easy things that we forget, but it really does make a big difference. Even on your phone, just take your shirt and clean that little camera lens before you take the picture. It matters more than you think. It can really like make or break a picture also. And then know your product. Does it look better in bright light? Does it make more sense in moody, shadowy kind of, what is the story that you're trying to tell? Be sure that it makes sense with your product. If you sell Halloween decorations and you put them, around a bunch of like daisies, it might not make as much sense as if you put it in like a shadowy kind of thing. So just because I think magnolia looks great doesn't mean it necessarily works for you. So just know your product and what is going to work the best for telling the story of your product. And then also take a lot of pictures. Like, don't feel limited. I have like 30,000 pictures on this phone. I get made fun of all the time, but there's nothing worse than like taking a whole bunch of pictures or taking a handful of pictures or whatever, and then you go sit down to use it, and there's like something a little bit wonky about all of them. If you only have 3, and you only have 3 to choose from, but if you have like 15, one of them's got to be decent. So go with, take a lot of pictures. Layout. Be very mindful of framing up the piece. So, it doesn't have to always be flat on. There are these little, I just found out about this. I'm gonna have to buy myself one, but they're like a bubble level that you can put on your phone. So if you're taking a picture like above, like a flat lay, that you can make sure your phone is perfectly level. And because if it's off just a little bit, like you can tell in the image. Anyway, so that's something I'll have to be Googling myself, but make sure that if there's lines if it's a painting, make sure it's lined up with the edge of your camera, that the space is even on either side, because your eye is going to want to fix it. And so your eye, when you're looking at the picture as a customer, you're subconsciously trying to fix the image because it's just slightly off, like in this first picture with the X. But if it's straight lined up, then you're not trying to fix it. But if you do like that angle look or a perspective that's a little bit different than head on, make sure that it's intentionally angled so that that your eye's not trying to fix that problem, if that makes sense. Please ask if you have questions about any of this stuff later. Layout, stay steady, invest in that tripod if that helps. And then shooting for social media. I know this isn't for everybody, but it does matter, especially in this day and age. Most of us do use social media. When, like, for example, on Instagram, it's going to show it as a square, no matter if it's landscape or portrait. When you take it in your feed, it's going to look like a square. And if you want, when people come to your feed, to scroll through and look at it, and for it to look good and not cropped weird or whatever, when you're taking your picture, you can kind of line it up to make sure that it, like, you can swipe to the square option. Actually, I think I could just show you here. You can swipe over to the square option, and then see where it says square. You could just swipe over to square and line up your picture in the square, and then swipe back to photo, and it'll make it back to portrait or landscape. But then you can see what it'll look like in square and how far away from it you need to be to make sure that in the square it will look good in a square mode. And then what we do for all of our images on our website, I just go ahead and take all of them in square mode because it's jewelry and it's small and it fits well in a square. That way it's all easy for anybody to grab and put in social media or in Instagram, and it's already framed up the way I want it to be framed up. The next thing would be editing, and we talked about this a little bit with all the presets, but just to help make sure that you have that overall cohesive look so that people aren't going to your website and finding like things all look very different or it's kind of haphazard. You have that consistent background, but using really good presets, as in what is that light dark ratio, how bright are the pictures, how warm are the pictures, how crisp are they. Those are all different presets that you can use in your app to make sure that they're the same or similar. And then the intention behind your pictures. Show your customer how your product can work in their life. They say we buy things that we don't have to think a lot about. So if I see a picture of something that looks really great in a home that has this like kind of minimal white, slightly bohemian decor, I will feel like I should have that because it looks like it's already styled into my home for me. So if that's your target audience, show your target audience how it can look like in their house or in their life. If it's clothes, show it on a body that looks like your target customer. So like if you do art, take that art and imagine what your target audience might be, or imagine the different scenarios. Even I was looking at tiger art earlier online, and this person, I think it was, does a really great job of showing you alternate ways that this same painting, so it's a cute little picture of a tiger, but it can go in a nursery like this, like that, different backgrounds, and just in someone's home, above their desk. And all of a sudden, this picture that I can't imagine, like, where would I put it? I don't know. It's really cute. But all of a sudden, they've showed me exactly how to use it in my life. And now I want it in a nursery, and I want it above my desk, and I want it. So they just show you how, and you don't have to think a lot about it, and all this to make it fit into your life. So for example, we have these rings they're called the Soul Friend ring. The first picture, this picture is great at telling the story about what soul friends are. Bridesmaids are usually soul friends. So when we show that picture, it basically tells the story of what that ring means, and it's telling them that they can buy it for a wedding. That's a great opportunity to share it with your soul friend. The next picture is this running piece that I did with these legs, and the back says victory and progress. So I've got my shoes where you can just barely, my running shoes, you can just barely see, in my tights. So just in this picture, it's setting up a little bit of the story without knowing anything about the piece. You already are like, she's running, she's got tennis shoes and this. So these are a little bit more for social media or for alternative pictures that you would use on your website, not the main picture, but it helps to start to tell the story about the piece. And then again, with this is the succulent collection that we have it nestled into some succulent plants. So if it's a cicada necklace and you've got some a dead cicada, I don't know, that you could put next to it, or some cicada art or something like that, or if it's art and it's of a painting of a flower, maybe you have that flower that inspired it next to it, so it starts to tell the story of where the inspiration came from. That just, all of that helps tell the story and grabs people and pulls them into the piece a little bit deeper. And then, like I said, just making the product relevant to your customers so they can see how it works in their everyday life. And then the next would be, this is just sort of an example I grabbed off of Etsy of product images. So on the left are some hair ties that it's basically the exact same product, but just from the image, don't we all want to buy the one on the right? It's beautiful, it's easy to see, it's clean, it's bright. The one on the left, it's wrapped up in some plastic, there's a reflection. You're not sure how handmade it is because it's, it's on this piece of thing that looks like it's from Hobby Lobby. And if I'm a blogger, if I'm somebody doing a story on cute hair ties and I want to use an image, I'm going to grab this one on the right, even though it's the same product, even though it probably costs the same amount of money to make it. They just took a little bit of time, put it in some light on probably a dollar store poster board, and took a picture. Not any more energy or anything like that. It's just the setup that took a little bit more thought and intention. And then some other miscellaneous tips. Borrow your customer pictures. For those alternative pictures I was showing you on my website, some of these, like if you scroll over it, it goes from our main picture to, these are just pictures that our customers took. So I don't always have alternative pictures of every single piece, but we have a hashtag called MIMOSA, hashtag MIMOSA in the wild. So that's like our piece out in the wild. So if you do paintings, if you do pottery, sculpture, whatever, you could come up with a hashtag and then encourage your customers to use it. We encourage them by giving them discounts. We'll give them 10% off, or we'll give them something free. And if they use the hashtag, and so then we can direct message them and say, thank you so much for using the hashtag, this is your free gift. But then you start to build up a library, and we've built up, I think we have almost 1,000 pictures of just customer photography that then with their, as long as we have their approval, we'll ask them later, hey, is it okay if we use this image from the website? And a lot of times they're more than happy to let us use the image. But then see all of these pictures, these 3 pictures here are pictures that customers took. That then I'm not having to take every single picture. Our customers are starting to build that up for us. And then trade with a photographer. There's plenty of photographers out there that are looking for experience. They're looking for exposure, all of those things, and just like you are. And so you can say, look, I have this piece of art. I'd be happy to trade with, this piece of art for this many photographs, whether it's just of the art or in art set up in a vignette or something. So reach out to some of your favorite photographers, and the worst thing that they can do is say, no, I can't do that right now, or they can recommend somebody who could. But we've done many trades before, and I've gotten a lot of really great professional photography that way. Another thing would be spending a day taking batch photos instead of photographing your products one at a time. And I'm terrible at this because I'm usually like doing everything in the moment, like living life in the moment and not planning, but I'm getting a lot better about it. So now what I'll do, I actually did this yesterday, is, okay, so you can kind of plan out your calendar, you know, Mother's Day's coming up, graduation's coming up, pull your products that have, or your works, your pieces of art that have something to do, that might be great graduation gifts, that might be great Mother's Day gifts, and start to storyboard, just like they do at Disney, like for movies. Start to storyboard, and this would be more for social media, I guess, but you can use it on your newsletters or on your website. What images do you want to be putting out there in the next few weeks? And then what is the story around those images that'll help tell the story of the piece? And then, you know, so if it's a graduation, if it's something, you know, there's tigers or jaguars or something like that, you might go visit Mike the Tiger, take some pictures, and then, you know, have, if it's a piece of jewelry or a shirt, you know, that's got tiger stripes on it, you know, you could go be in the space and have pictures that kind of tell the story. And then, but do a bunch of them that day. Don't just take one picture and then you're done. Go around your house and take some pictures on wood. I've got like big platters that I use. I'll get all of this stuff out. I'll get my cake stand out and get a bunch of jewelry and pile it up, and I'll just start taking pictures. And then I've got kind of a bank to pull from for social media and for newsletters and things like that over the next few weeks. Make sure I said, oh, and then invest in some online tutorials and editing presets. Like I said, some of those presets are great. They're not expensive. They're like $5, $4. It's worth just trying a couple just to see if you like them. And then that way, at least in your feed, but they're not necessarily just for social media. You can use these for your website. It just edits the pictures for whatever you use them for. But then you've got that kind of cohesive look, and it gives you like you see here, it says moody, Android, gray, whatever they have. You can search, you know, whatever, if red is your color, then you can search for presets that have red undertones. It's kind of amazing what they've got out there. So definitely research some of that. And then as far as tutorials go, if you go on Pinterest, I could just go on Pinterest right now. Let me see if I can do this. Product, oh shoot, I don't know how. Okay, well, I'm sorry. We'll just go back to this. But the point is, you can go to Pinterest and just type in product photography, DIY or hacks or something like that. And there you can scroll through tons and tons. And I've got at the end of this thing a handful of those little courses or blog posts that are really great for exactly what we're talking about here. So there's really no excuse not to be able to do your own photography, or at least decent enough photography for your website, because there's so many resources on the on the internet. And then repurpose. I guess I just want to make the point that, like, while you're taking pictures of these photos for your website, you can zoom into a different, like a corner of the painting, or you can, you know, do something a little bit different that you can use for as additional product images, as teasers for social media, in your newsletter. So think about, like, while you're so focused on the product image for your website, go ahead and throw in some extra images so that you can use those later for promotion purposes. School yourself. Like I said, everything really is already on the internet. You don't get a get out of jail free card. And it's not something you're born with. You don't have to be a pro. Just pay attention to what works. Like I said, go to websites where it's already amazing, you know, things are already beautiful, and you like to shop and you enjoy the experience, and take notes of why you enjoy it and what works and what could possibly work for you. And then, like I said, scour the internet for inspiration. So Bando, Magnolia, Warby Parker has really great images. and then online courses and DIY guides. I think they're going to put this available for y'all. So these are just a handful of ones that I had found that I thought were really great. And personally, I even learned some things from that you can just spend a half a day or a day just going through all of these things and taking notes and then pulling together the materials and the products and the, whether it's blankets and rugs and a white poster board and a marble slab and, or whatever the thing is that if it's rustic, like a really rustic piece of wood, go to some thrift stores and find some old, brass platters or whatever, that you want your background to be. And then spend a day just practicing doing all these, different photography, different things that you can do. And the other thing, let's see, I think now we can go to questions, Ashley.
Yeah, this is wonderful, Madeline. Thank you so much. If you can go to your chat, everyone, and send your questions in, we'll take a few minutes for some question and answers. I have not received any yet, but I think it's because everybody was so intent on the presentation. Anybody, questions?
And if you go to YouTube too, there are so many guides. Like they will literally walk you through how to do the lighting, the brightness, the contrast, all of those things exist online everywhere. So schooling yourself in this it's really easy with the internet.
Madeline, you might have answered all the questions.
I don't know about them.
Rick LeComte said, well done. So we're definitely getting some great comments about the webinar. Any last closing remarks if anybody doesn't have any questions?
No, feel free to DM me or message me, email me if you have any questions. I'm happy to, like I said, everything I do is very DIY. There's nothing fancy. I just work with what I've got. And, usually I have like a kid just out of arm's length that I'm trying to like ward off while I'm taking the pictures. So, if I can do it, literally anyone can do it. But I think it just takes like a little bit of paying attention and to what you're doing, but also paying attention to the things that you like and the things that appeal to you so that you can start to break that apart and see what about it appeals to you and how you can use it in what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Madeline. Everyone is just bringing in comments, super thorough. Thanks so much, very informative. So we just really appreciate your time and your expertise. And thanks again, everybody. This is going to be up on our website. You can see all of our webinar series on artsvr.org under what we do, the Create You webinar series. And we'll have this up probably early next week once we get everything edited and put together. So thank you again. And we really appreciate everything.
All right. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, Madeline. Bye.